Scott and I met in our senior year of high school in Brussels. He was the kindest person I think I'd ever met. A pure, genuine, good soul. Scott was smart, gracious, funny, and with such depth to him, such sincerity. Several years later, in a letter to me, he referred to himself as having been a dreamer back then, and how with time he was becoming more realistic. But it is the dreamer that I remember and cared so deeply for. The dreamer that was such a close friend and confidant. The dreamer who saw me through my first heartbreak and my second heartbreak, and I think even my third. The dreamer that surely is who Scott always was on the inside, though perhaps increasingly hardened on the outside through life. I will never forget how graciously he reacted when he visited me in Bowie, Maryland, and our dog vomited all over his shoe that he was wearing. The 1,000 expressions that crossed his face in the flash of a second before he composed himself. A true gentleman in all circumstances. We laughed about that so many times, though it took a minute to get to the laughter. I think he even teased me about it when we finally reconnected on Facebook a few years ago. Scott loved words, writing, reading. As he matured, his writing style became almost poetic. Such beautiful use of language, such carefully chosen and meticulously placed words, truly beguiling. I loved reading his letters. Scott wanted so much to make his father proud. At first, he wanted to serve his country because it's what his father wanted for him. He believed it was his expected path. But shortly after, as he considered what he wanted to do with his life, independent of his father's ideas or influence, well, that's when he realized it was actually his chosen path. It was what he wanted to do more than anything, or as he put it, it was always in my blood, and now that I have tasted its bread, I can eat no other, forever. Scott was so frustrated to not be able to sign up in what he considered to be a meaningful way and serve in Iraq when the war first broke out. He wrote to me, "It really grated on me that I had to be stuck here in school while my friends and brothers in arms were putting it on the line. I felt trapped in academia." Later he writes of having lost a friend to Desert Storm, a young man who had been called away from his honeymoon. He writes, "It really changed the way I look at the profession of arms. Soldiering is not glorious. It is angry, dirty, profoundly soaked in sorrow, buried in a casket of hardship. And yet, the call to arms is so mesmerizing, a hysterical hypnosis, a curse, and a blessing." Scott and I were out of touch for far too many years, roughly from the time that he got married until just 6 or 7 years ago. Out of touch, but Scott left such a print on me. He represented one of the most profound friendships that I have ever had, and I thought of him so many times over the years. When we finally reconnected, I was elated. And though our messages back and forth were few and far between, when we did write on Messenger, I saw the Scott that I knew. His shell had changed, but his heart had not. I will forever regret not having reached out in a deeper, more meaningful way in the last few months. I'd actually found my stack of letters from him and read through all of them just 2 weeks before I heard the news. And reading through them, I had every intention of reaching out. But each day I said tomorrow. Tomorrow doesn't always come. I wanted to close this out with a quote from Percy Shelley's Prometheus Unbound. that Scott sent to me some 25 years ago. It goes like this. We melt away like dissolving spray from the children of a diviner day, with the lullaby of winds that die on the bosom of their own harmony.